Hello YouTube, my name is John, and in this video I'm going to walk you through the process of how you can create your first page using Optimizely CMS 12. Now in this video I'm assuming that you've already got a website set up. If you haven't, see the first episode in this series to do that. Now in this video what we're going to do, I'm guessing it's going to be about 20 minutes, is we're going to set up a controller, a view, we're going to create the page type, and then after that we're going to create ourselves a license. So I should walk you through the process of creating a license. Then we're also going to set up our host name or the site name within the CMS. So we're going to go into the admin, set it up so you're ready for success. So this is the second episode in my series of Optimizely CMS 12. And if you want to play along at home, want to learn more about this great CMS, click the subscribe button. Now my name's John if you haven't come across my videos before, and I do weekly YouTube videos on CMS, productivity, all that amazing developer goodness. So smash the subscribe button. So assuming you've done that, let's crack on and create this page type. We are starting today's fun task inside of Visual Studio, and our first task will be to define a page type. Now the nice thing about Optimizely CMS is that you can do code first content modeling. And this means that instead of having to go into CMS and defining all your templates, page types, block types, you can do it all in code. And this is going to simplify your deployment process. So all you need to do with Optimizely is create some classes, define your CMS objects, commit your code, and then as soon as another developer pulls it, they're going to get your CMS changes synced. As soon as you want to deploy to production or development, just do a publish and the CMS will sync. Now before we actually get into page types, let's talk about project structure. Now in episode 1 we had just a basic web root, and as you can see in this example I've created a separate class library. It's called cms.core, call it whatever you want. This is a .NET Core library, and my recommendation is that you put all of your custom code in a separate class library. Now the main reason for this is it's going to make future maintenance probably a lot easier. So let's say, for example, 3 years ago you created all your custom code in a separate class library. When it came to upgrading from .NET framework to the .NET Core, life would be much easier for you because you have your presentation and your custom code decoupled. So little tip from me to you. So in order for us to create this page type, we need to create a new class. And in today's example, we're going to create the home page. Now, before we actually do this, let's talk about NuGet packages. So obviously creating this separate package or class library is really important. However, there's a few things that you need to include in order for our page types to work. So you'll need to make sure that you have episerver.cms.aspnetcore.mvc, episerver.cmscore, and episerver.framework. So even though this is Optimizely CMS 12, a lot of the old package names haven't been refactored yet. The other thing that I want to quickly point out is version numbering. If you're starting to have your own class libraries and you've got your own web root, you need to make sure that all the libraries marry up and they're all on the same version. And if you start having different version mismatches, you can get into all sorts of mischief. So just make sure that all the versions marry up, because sometimes, you know, CMS core might have been bumped. However, the website NuGet package is still using, say, 1203. So little tip there. Going back to our class, let's make it episerver-fied or Optimizely-fied, however you want to say it. So what we want to do is first inherit from the page data. Now page data is an Optimizely base class, and it's going to give us loads of useful features. So let's have a quick peek in here. You can see from here we're going to get things like is deleted, visible in menu. You're going to get the name, the content GUID, URL, all that sort of stuff. So basically this is the way that we can easily create pages without having to define everything ourselves. Now next we need to decorate our class with the content type attributes. Now this should live in one of the episerver.data annotation namespaces. And let's quickly talk what happens here. So basically when you do a build, what happens is that on the application start, The CMS is going to scan your bin directory using reflection, and any class it finds that's been decorated with content type is basically going to know that this is something that you'd probably add to the CMS database. So what it's going to do is scan the class using reflection. It's going to look at the class attributes and the property attributes and then add all that metadata into the CMS. So basically this is how all this code first magic works. Now when we're doing this, we want to add in a few extra metadata properties. So the first one I recommend you add is this GUID. Now the reason why we want to do that is because in the future, again, you might have some import export issues if you don't. So what you want to do is just go to GUID generator, not GUID guide. There we go. Free on a GUID generator. So generate some GUID, copy to clipboard. Off we go. There at the races. Ba-boom. Now the next thing we want to do is give a display name. And this is going to be the name that the content editors will see in the new page dialog within the CMS. Now to add some useful properties that the content editors can interact with in the editor is done by adding normal properties in here. So the first thing you need to know, and this will be a caveat that will catch you out, is that everything needs to be virtual, otherwise the property will not be imported into CMS. Now Optimizely CMS comes with loads of really useful features and properties. I will cover those in a later video, but for now let's use content area. And content area is basically the component which is going to allow content editors to add components into the CMS. So yeah, every time you want to use blocks or components on a page, it's going to be of type content area. Next up, we need to decorate this with the display attribute. And this is going to be living inside system component model data annotations. So this is a normal MVC one. And then in here, we're going to add in some extra metadata. So the first one we're going to add in is, let's do order. And this is the order that the property will render on the page. Now, when we're doing this, I highly recommend that you use big ranges. Now, the reason for this is that say in a month's time, if you need to add an extra property and you've used a previous order of say like 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to have to refactor every single one of your properties in order to fit your property in the right area. So you leaving a big range will give you loads of options. Now the other thing you can do is group name, and this is going to be the tab that the the property will display under. So in here you can put a string, or as you can see right here, I've got this system tab name, and these are going to give you some default Optimizely options. So for my example, let's go for content. And then that's pretty much all we need to create our first page type. The next thing we want to do is render our page type within our website. So we're going to need to create a controller. So let's type in home page controller here. Now, whenever you're creating or whenever you're working with a CMS and .NET, the routing is going to be very different compared to a vanilla. Now think about it. When you're using a vanilla MVC website, the routing will go controller action. So let's say we have a website.com checkout page /orders. That's going to map directly to a controller called checkout and orders. Now, when we're working with CMSs, content editors are going to be creating our virtual pages within a content tree, and all this data is going to live in a database. So when a site visitor makes a request, that's going to go somehow back to the database. The database is going to create a match. If there is a match, some code and data is going to be returned. That needs to be typed into an object, and that needs to actually carry on the normal request pipeline. So there's a lot of complications going on in the background. Now, as developers, we don't want to have to handle any of that. And this is the reason why we need to inherit from a base type. And that's just simply page controller. And page controller is part of Episerver Web MVC, and it uses generics. So the way that we can hook into any request of type homepage, so remember that's the name of the class I just created, all we need to do is type it. Now the next thing we can do is define our normal index. So that's going to be I action results. One of the nice things about working with .NET Core is we can work the interfaces. Now we've got our index, and as our first param, we can get access to a homepage objects. So let's just call this current page. And then let's just do a return view and then current page. Now in a future video, I'm going to talk about view models and best practices. For now, let's keep things very easy. So this is going to just call our controller for any request for any page with homepage, of type homepage, should I say. And this is going to pass in all the CMS data, so we didn't have to do anything. And now we're just passing that into our view. So to create a view, super simple, as any MVC site, in your web root within the views folder, simply add a new folder. Let's call it homepage. It needs to match. And then in here, we're going to create our index CS.html. Add. And then let's just have all you YouTubers rock. Because you do rock. Now that is pretty much all the setup. So we have our page type, controller and view. Now let's fire up our local web server so we can see this in action. And then hopefully, it shouldn't take too long to fire up. Now because we don't have a home page or a start page or anything like that, when this loads, we're going to get a 404 error. So the first thing we need to do is log into the CMS. And this is done by typing in util/login. So this is going to give you access to the CMS. Now, as we did in the last video, remember I created this nice little user installer, and in here we've defined our own CMS user. So it's admin@example.com, and we've got our password here. So this is how I'm logging in. Check episode 1 if you want to learn how to create a user. So example, there we go. So hopefully we should log in. Now, as you can see, we haven't redirected properly. So what we need to do now is type in episerver/CMS. Hopefully you can see that. So episerver CMS. And then this, if we're lucky, is going to load the editor. Now, clicking on this toggle navigation pane button, you can see that we've got access to our content tree. Now, at the moment, we don't have any pages in here. So let's first create a home page. So in here, we've got home page. Now in this example, I've only got one page type. So this is going to automatically create it for me. Normally you're going to have to pick from a selection. Now, not yet published. First, let's publish this. Now, whenever you're setting up any brand new Optimizely CMS site, you're going to have to create a home page. And at the moment, you can see that this is just a normal CMS page. At the moment, Optimizely does not know that it should treat this page specifically for the home page or the start page. And the reason and the way that we can change that is going into the admin right here. From here, you can see that we have config. So we're going to click on this. And then now we can create ourselves a website. So this is all the website settings that we need. So clicking on this, actually going back one step, as you can see right here, we've got this license error. So we're going to fix this very shortly. But as you can see, we've got the license file does not exist. So we're going to have to add this in very shortly. So create website. So this can be anything you want. Now for my example, I'm just going to use my debugging URL. Obviously, you should probably use your host name for this. Now underneath here, you can see that there's an option to select the start page. So this is going to set which page is going to load whenever we go to the root domain. So for me, I want to go to the home page we just created. Finally, I want to click on add host. And from here, again, I just want to put in my local host. and then I want to be type of primary, or edit actually, doesn't really make a difference. And then let's close add host. Now this is kind of different from previous versions. So if you're doing a headless implementation, then this is actually quite important. So you see we have edit and primary. So one is just going to define the URL for the editor, and the primary is going to define the URL for your web head. I will cover that in another video. So now we've got save websites. Let's just try copying this in from scratch, see what happens. Maybe I'm being a wally. There we go, being a wally. So now if everything has gone according to plan, if I go back to the editor, you should see that we have this little home icon right here. So this means that our start page has been defined. Now, if everything has gone according to plan and I'm an absolute legend, when we actually look at our web page, instead of 404, we have all you YouTubers rock. It's now time for us to create ourselves a developer license. Now this is free, anyone can do it. All you'll need is one of two things. So you can either use your own IP address, and I don't recommend you do this unless you've got a static IP address and it never changes. The other approach is to use your machine address, so your MAC address. So getting your MAC address, if you don't know, is super simple. Just do ipconfig all. You're going to get a big list. From your big list, scroll to the top, you can see you have your Ethernet adapter Ethernet. From here, copy the physical address. So as you can see, a physical address. Give it a copy and off we go. Now, generating a license is done online through the Epi Server License Center. Now, even though we're using Optimizely, all you need to do is just type in license Epi Server. And this is going to be your first one. Now, once you get to the portal, which is license.episerver.com, you want to click on this new partner customer. From here, you're going to be presented with this web form. So from the product selection, you want to pick Epi Server 7. Now, even though this came out 10 years ago, this value has not been updated. So let's fill in some gumph. So John D. Jones. My name is John Jones, Department IT, the company for beautiful YouTube people. That is you. And then email is just going to be my spam mail account. And then bound input, we want to select Mac. This is the important thing. And then paste in the machine code. Click on all the T's and C's, create demo license. Now you probably didn't see that, but there's a little button right at the bottom, create demo license. There we go, beautiful. Now, the one thing about this license center is you can only create a new demo license once every 30 days. If you try and create one sooner, you're going to get this error. Now, what should happen for you is you're going to get an email, and then in your email, you're going to have an attachment, and that attachment is going to be called license.config. So what you want to do is go to your solution, copy license.config, go into your website settings, and from there, you want to copy your license.config file into your directory. Simple. Now, if you're doing a Visual Studio publish, you also want to make sure that your license.config is included in your solution. Easy to get. Also, you want to make sure that it's always the build action, as you can see here, very small, is set to content and copy if newer. So you want to make sure that this gets synced across. Now you can make sure that your license is correctly installed by going to the admin. So logging into the admin, util login, then going over to this bit here. And as you can see, just when you're in the editor, basically go to the admin section. Then you want to go to the config section. Then you want to go to manage websites. Then in the top of manage websites, you've got this beautiful yellowy banner. And in the banner, you can see that we've got a positive message which says this installation is licensed for 2 sites. Now, if your license hasn't been correctly added into the right place, or it's got an error, this is going to show you an error message. Most of the time it's because you put it in a silly folder location, and this error will tell you exactly where you need to put it. There we have it, a working web page. Boom. And I'm hoping you agree that this process of creating a page in the CMS is fairly simple. Now this is Optimizely CMS 12, however, it was formerly Episerver, and if you've used Episerver before, then this process is probably going to feel very familiar. Now, as I was saying at the start, this is episode 2 in my series, so if you want to see anything in particular, please leave a comment below and I'll do a video just for you. Also, if you do want to see more, then you want to smash the subscribe button because you won't want to lose out this content. And also I do stuff like developer news and career hacks, so you don't want to lose all of that content. Smash subscribe now. Now, there's 2 other bits I want to sell. First, if you want to learn more about the industry, have an update of when I'm doing some content, subscribe to my newsletter. Do a newsletter every Sunday. It's interesting, subscribe, it's free, you won't get spammed, do it. Also, if you want to do me the massive solid, then please hit that like button. So hitting like is just going to help me trick the YouTube algorithm into showing my video to more people, so smash like now. Anyway, I hope you found some value from this video. Hope you're having that amazing day wherever you are, and happy coding.